What do Hammurabi, Caesar Augustus, and George Washington have in common? This is the beginning of the empire builder concept. What I've located in the past in history are an astrological combination that is the basis for almost every major empire that ever existed. And these three, the Mesopotamian Babylonian Empire, the initial one, and the Roman Empire, and the United States of America we'll call an empire also, they all had the same initial condition of Jupiter, Saturn, and Rahu together in the sign of Aries when they began. This particular combination seems to be the spur that creates not just civilizations, but massively powerful, long-lived empires. Now, what's interesting is that that astrological combination only occurs at certain times, and the most likely time to find it is 1768 years apart. So it's a very rare and unusual combination, and yet many, many large empires have started with Jupiter, Saturn, and Rahu in the sign of Aries. But if you look at the dates of when Hammurabi lived, and he was the sixth king in a series of what they call the first dynasty of Babylonian history, the original Babylonian regime back in 1894 BC was the beginning of the first dynasty. And he showed up in 1792 and died in 1750 BC, ruled for 42 years. Hammurabi was a great leader. And at the time, the Mesopotamian area and Babylon was a city in a group of other cities that were disconnected, and they were kind of like at times working together, at times warring with each other, but there wasn't a unified empire there. And Hammurabi was the one who brought the thing together. He brought the Babylonian city to become the basis of the Babylonian Empire. Hammurabi, of course, is the source of the legal codes called the Codes of Hammurabi, 268 rules and legal regulations that represent the first kind of major stride in the direction of legal structures that we use in the modern world. There were earlier legal codes that came prior to that, 2300 BC, but this was the one that was renowned to be something in the direction of what we know. The Code of Hammurabi, it's now in a museum in the United States. It was a black kind of obelisk in which the code was written, and 282 laws and such, and things like an eye for an eye were in there. And it was also the first code that punished the perpetrator of the crime rather than just recompensing the victim of the crime. It was a notable change from prior legal systems. Hammurabi, after he died, even though the civilization did not last past 1595 BC when it was defeated by the Hittites, the reality was he was lauded, and people and even kings many centuries later were still referring to him as if he was a great leader and as if they were in lineage with him. It was that attractive a leader. If you look at the date 1792 BC and project it through our cycle, 1768 years, which was the cycle of repetition of history that I discovered, you find 24 BC, and then the end point would be 18 AD, if you look at that same 42-year period. What was interesting is Augustus, who was the first Roman emperor, who was the kind of the nephew of Julius Caesar, who had been assassinated in 44 BC, he became the first emperor, although he didn't want to call himself an emperor, in 27 BC, and he was ruling until 14 AD, 41 years, almost the same exact period of time. And the dates that they started and ended were exactly 1768 years apart. And they were both extremely significant in turning the tide for their civilization, making Babylon into a strong Babylonian empire. And of course, Augustus, as he put it, he kind of organized Rome to retake on its strength and align with its prior greatness. After Augustus, of course, we had a sequence of emperors. So he was like the first emperor. Therefore, this was the beginning of the Roman Empire. It had been, since 509 BC, had been the had been a republic, but they ceased to have any kind of king-like structure. What was interesting was Augustus, the first Roman emperor, was also remembered in a very, very positive light for many years, for hundreds of years actually. And he also was known as starting a period in Rome which was called Pax Romana, which was a very favorable couple of 100-year period going forward where Rome was thriving and growing. And so if you take that same period of time and go forward another 1768 years, you find you're going to wind up in 1750 through 1792 or 1793. George Washington was basically a general initially from 1752 until he was finally elected president and ended his presidency in 1797, which was a 45-year period. And George Washington still to this day is renowned as the father of our country, and he's given tremendous credit and laudation. And if you go forward from 1755 BC, when Hammurabi's code was supposed to have been promulgated, it aligns with 1781, exactly the year that the United States Constitution came around. Now, that reality is so exciting to me that the exact cycle is exactly in line with the code of laws that ruled in Babylon, the code of laws that ruled in the United States, that we still continue to follow in the United States of America. The exact year, 3,536 years later, 2 times 1768. It shows that the mathematics is guiding this whole game. So there was a tremendous similarity between the Babylonian Empire and the Roman Empire and the United States of America's birth, and we call it an empire, although it isn't officially an empire, but it behaves as if it is one, and it's spread out throughout the world, and there are militaries in 79 countries and such. So not only is the commonality of these three empires, these three civilizations, very important, and the alignment is continues through time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let us know. Give us a thumbs up. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please do. And for those of you who want to see more, there's a similar video that I made recently called Democracy and the 2064-Year Cycle. Hope you enjoy that as well.